Welcome to the Two Doors podcast, where we open the doors to Australia's top minds in tech, talent, and transformation. Hosted by Alexander Gill, founder of Two Doors Recruitment, we cut through the noise with real conversations from leaders building the future of work. Subscribe to the show to hear and see more of these types of conversations. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Two Doors podcast. I am here with Bernie. Bernie has over 20 years of leadership in transforming ICT strategies. Bernard is a seasoned Chief Information Officer dedicated to empowering organizations across diverse industries, including retail, manufacturing, healthcare, construction, property, agriculture, and hospitality, to achieve sustainable growth through innovative technology solutions. Currently serving as CTO at the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine, Bernard leads cutting-edge initiatives that support justice, public health, and research. Previously a CIO at Superpowers Group, he led ICT growth from a handful of companies to over 30 across Australia, Singapore, Dubai, the USA, Malaysia, and China, driving digital transformation and operational scaling across industry innovation. A strategic thinker and people-centric leader, Bernard believes technology is a catalyst for growth, not just a cost. His expertise includes implementing robust cybersecurity frameworks, streamlining workflows, enhancing data management, and fostering high-performing teams. Bernie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Now, that was certainly a bio and a half. Absolutely.
Isn't it? I mean, I've got imposter syndrome. Say it. It's very impressive.
No, very good. Thank you for that.
How do you feel when you hear that read back to you and just it gives you an opportunity to reflect?
It does, yeah. It goes back over almost a 30-year career. Yeah, so I'm being, I guess, an IT native. So, it's interesting to hear back. Absolutely, in that respect.
Multiple countries, multiple domains, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation last time. So I'm really excited to squeeze as much leadership principles and conversation out of you as possible, Bernie. So, obviously you work in that innovation space as well. And where do you see all of this going? Like, you've seen a lot happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a couple of ways to look at it. Unfortunately, a lot of people have this philosophy at the moment that AI is everything. AI is the answer, but AI is also the problem. I don't see AI replacing people and replacing their skill set, their knowledge, their ability to communicate, their networking, and the ability to get things done. So it has a place. What that place is, I think, is in flux. But I think it's a great tool and a great help. But I don't see it replacing. I see people having to upskill, change, modify what they do, and iterate, learn. And I think that'll be a journey that I think a lot of people, I hate that word journey, but I think it'll be something that a lot of people will grasp. Some people will get left behind.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will grasp that and move forward with it.
Yes. And obviously you work with where cyber is key, data is key in that forensic space as well. And so what are the challenges, but the opportunities in integrating technology with forensic services?
Absolutely. And I guess at this point, I'll just point out that these words are my own. I don't speak for VIFM. So This is certainly very key in that space with that. Everything VIFM do, though, is with dignity and respect for the families, just by the nature of the information that we're dealing with and the situations that they're dealing with. From a data perspective, and I guess what attracted myself to VIFM, in that initial why I changed some time ago, 3 years ago now almost, into a different role. VIFM started in 1995, and it was one of the first institutions in the world of forensic medical nature to digitize. So I think last week or the week before, VIFM achieved its 100,000th full body CT scan. Wow. Unfortunately, that means so obviously 100,000 people have passed, but that data is now kept in basically perpetuity, 99 years, as an asset that can be utilized and can help others. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. So from a technology aspect, VIFM has always been very cutting edge. And that is one of the reasons it attracted me. It's a great data set, which is unique in the world and one of the cleanest and best data sets in the world. and how that is being utilised and how it can be utilised. And that's the exciting part. So from a utilisation perspective, there's sort of three facets if we look at the organisation. The first one is the living, and VIFM are the forensic arm of VicPol. So anything biological or toxicological comes through us. So we're seeing at the coalface, what's occurring in the community, what's moving through the community, and that data and that information helps, I guess, provide cases for spending in the right locations, for mitigation of the risks that are occurring or the actions that are occurring in Victoria. The second part is the information from the departed, and that information goes. It's used internally for giving closure to families and so forth. And ultimately, VIFM don't make the decision on how somebody passed. We provide that information to the coroner's court and they make that call. But it allows for that closure. And I think that's crucial in people's process of mourning and going through that. So that's the second part. But the information then is also used for research. And VIFM is a school of excellence for Monash University. That data is used, and we've got a massive data cube. It's used by University of Edinburgh, University of Texas, Monash University, and they're doing great things with that. And they're looking to do even bigger things with that. And one of those is the virtual autopsy. So they're training doctors to be able to do the actions that they do without having to do it on cadavers or whatever it may be. But it's moving that knowledge forward. They're using it to learn, to transfer knowledge. Often a doctor might see one case in a lifetime of one type. Machine learning, AI, allows them to use AI in the right mannerisms. Currently in a research, not used in production, but currently or in life, but in a research environment to help them get a clearer picture of what occurred. And I think that is crucial as well. And I'll circle back to the AI and ethics and governances around that and guardrails. They're still works in motion. Yeah. But fundamentally, in the approach that I take, and this is just personally, this is the opinion that I express, is that it's a RACI model. And I go back to my project management background. We talk about a long career. I go back to accountable, consulted, informed, responsible, consulted, informed. Using AI for consulting and informing is great. It helps you look at things that you wouldn't consider. It gives you a different view, another lens. But ultimately, the person making the decision or communicating the information is responsible and accountable.
Yes.
And that's where the RACI comes in. As long as the responsible and the accountable are well and truly owned and that responsibility taken, I think it has a place in that consulting and inform.
Yeah.
As those guardrails evolve and the technology evolves and the use cases change, we'll see where that ends up.
Yes.
But currently, it's a good space to be. Yeah. So from an IT perspective, it's an exciting space to be. We're collecting masses of data, we're managing masses of data, and we're seeing value come out of that data. And that's exciting.
And I love your point about responsibility and accountability, because I love those words. You don't always hear people speak about that and really digging into that point. So how do you approach data security and privacy? Like, is there a certain mindset or attitude towards it?
No, absolutely. It's really about understanding the implications of the data and the impact of the data. And a lot of the data that VIFM hold has real value at a point in time. And then ultimately it ends up in the public domain. We transfer a lot of it to the courts. We transfer a lot of it to VicPol. We transfer a lot of it to the National Coronial Information System, which handles all of the data for the deceased throughout Australia and New Zealand. And again, that is used by a number of researchers. Has a different level of data than what we manage and maintain, but we transfer it to there. So there's that initial impact of the data is really current, but also the understanding that the data and the reputation of VIFM is dependent on the quality and the consistency of that data, that it can't be called into disrepute. And that's crucial. So with that understanding, it's very much a security pro or a very much the risk appetite, probably the best way to term it, is very low. So we put a lot of time and a lot of effort into how we manage the information. And that involves a number of steps. The first one is a strong strategy. The next one is our governance processes are very strong. So we have ethics committees, we have information management, risk management committees. Our change management processes are very strong. Everything we do, we look at from that aspect. So we really go through, we do a privacy impact assessment on every piece of new software, and we're going back through a lot of our existing solutions now, on how they sit, do they meet our risk tolerance levels, how we rate them, and how we can improve them. We external audit pretty continuously. We're working our way through the results of one of those at the moment, and that's great. They're all opportunities to improve. And that's probably the key is, and I think you might have brought up earlier, it never stops. We're always improving. We're always adapting. We're always growing. We're always looking. And I think that allows us to be very much, I wouldn't say on that forefront, but allows us to be very security aware. And that's something that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And VIFM have identified that, and they invest in that. And I think that's really, really, really good. And I believe that's crucial for the organisation, but also for the people in the organisation to have that understanding, to have that knowledge. And a lot of our people have very much got a security passion. And that's just great. It really is.
I look forward to people listening to this, because I think that's a great attitude that many should have. You know, like it was only last week, a week before, I think Marks and Spencer's in the UK got, you know, we've seen the Optus, we've seen the Medibanks, we've seen all of this. And
Qantas currently.
Yeah, Qantas another one. So it's it is something that it's imperative. It's not an option. It's like it has to be taken very seriously. And switching gears, Bernie, I'd love to ask you, you know, how do you, like, you didn't wake up one morning and you was like, okay, I'm a CTO now and I'm responsible for all of this data and I'm responsible for these people. Like, talk us through your journey.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to be very honest with this one. I didn't get through university the first time. I was a 19-year-old in Ballarat, and it was a cold, dark winter, and I had no wish to get up for an early morning chemistry class on a Friday. So no, I didn't get through uni on that first time. And if you talk sliding door moments, it was probably a good thing. My heart was in IT. My heart wasn't in university. It was the wrong medium for me. And when I was 19, 20, and I went to TAFE. I took a step back, and I did an advanced certificate in electronics computing, I think it was called at the time. And we built a multimeter, and we built a power supply, and we did some networking, and it was very basic. It wasn't basic. It was, at the time, it was cutting edge. It was Novell. I'm showing my age now. It was the end of Novell, though, I'll be honest. Windows was there. But I did Novell. And that then led to me growing. And it was all about growing. And growing up in Ballarat for that first phase, I guess, primary school, secondary school, university, I knew Ballarat. I knew my life in Ballarat. I knew my friends in Ballarat. I knew very little about business and how things operated. And moving to a TAFE and then commencing work in Melbourne and growing through that was a great experience. And at about 25, I bought a house, etc. You know, starting to settle down. And I very quickly realised within sort of 2 years of that for me to be able to move forward and to be able to continue to earn some dollars, which I think is crucial, but also to have a career that would have some longevity, I needed to go and learn. And the scholar group at the time, Joseph Stilvala, I went to see him. He was who I reported to, the CFO. I said, Joseph, I want to go back to school. And he sort of looked at me, and I said, well, I believe I need to be able to help the group, but also for my own growth. And he supported that. And so did the Scholar family, Tony, etc. at that point in time. And they agreed to fund my grad dip. And the deal was that I would put the time in, they would put the dollars in, and there was some golden. There were various, should I have left early, there was some repayments, etc. And that was a factor. And I thoroughly enjoyed my grad dip. And what I got out of that is that not what I learned in the grad dip. It's that I didn't know everything. It's that I had to keep on learning and that I had to keep on evolving. From there, I went and did a master's, and I sponsored my own master's, my MBA. And again, that reinforced that. And I got a lot out of that. And from there, I've continued to educate right through everything from originally doing my MCSE, NT4, I think it was, through to doing risk, CRISC, CISM. I'm a chartered project professional. I've got the Australian Institute of Project Management, their top cert. I've got the international top cert for project management. I've just completed another project management certification. I've done change management, business analyst, Six Sigma black belt. So I've continued to educate, and roughly I do one course a year of some notable type course, and I probably do one or two online type courses a year. And I find I need that to be able to have an understanding of what I don't know, to be able to ask the right questions in the right room. I shouldn't be the smartest, I shouldn't be the SME, but I should know enough to ask the questions. And if I don't know the questions, I should know where to look for the questions.
So you've been addicted to growth and staying relevant and staying up to date.
Right through. And I think last year I did my CISM. And this year I've got some other training I'm just starting to work through now. And I'll continue to do that.
That's fantastic.
I enjoy that. It also sets a perception of yourself. And a lot of people, I've noticed over the years, and I can relate some stories with this, that a lot of people I find they're in a role and they treat themselves as they are the role, they're molded by the role, and they're molded by what other people perceive them as in that role. I think when you get to a point where you understand your value and you understand what your non-negotiables are, and you have an idea of what your direction is or what your driver is around that direction, whether it be money, whether it be certs, whether it be personal enjoyment from learning, whether it be enjoying tinkering, it really doesn't matter. I think once you understand that, you set a path that is separate to the organisation that you're currently in, or the current role that you're in, or the current people that are around you. And that makes you very, very powerful. It means that you have a purpose, you have a direction, you have a path, and it gives you the ability to step out of the current situation and look at it in a bigger picture. And maybe that's a maturity thing, and I don't think I've got there yet. I'm still a work in motion, but I think I've got a lot further than I was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. There's also humility in there, right, Bernie? It's like, you know that you don't know everything, but I sense that you keep learning many different aspects so that you can relate, and then that helps the overall project, but that helps the technology. It helps many areas. And what's your leadership philosophy?
So for a long time, I've called myself a servant leader, and I've always been about removing the roadblocks. And while I believe that resonates, and I'm there to make sure the people that can do it right, can do it quickly, can do it with the best quality, can achieve what they need to achieve, and are empowered to do that. I believe that's a philosophy, or a mantra, or whatever you want to call it, or a principle. The lacking part in that statement is it doesn't show the direction from the front. It doesn't show setting the strategy or communicating the initial vision to have people buy in. And I'm still working about what that elevator pitch sounds like, but that first part is the crucial part. So it's get people onto where you want to be, let them understand the benefits of where you're going, or the change of what's going to occur in that change, and what the outcomes of that are very clearly, how you're going to measure that change. But it's then almost flipping the book and then working on the background to get them to where you want them to be. And that takes a lot to do. And a good example of that is some time ago, I did a CRM project back in a former life, and sat down and mapped out really the client journey through the organisation and where it could be improved. And the whole thing, to keep it simple, ended up, actually drew it on an iPad, watching TV, laying on the lounge room floor, was one A4 or A3 bit of paper, if you blew it up, diagram, which showed input, doing, output, and a loop, and where the appropriate tools could be implemented to improve that client journey and the staff and make it measurable. Proof of concept on that was to enable it, action items, was about 4 weeks. But the proof of concept then went on to spend a couple of $1 million to get it to where it needed to be. But the repayments on it, the ROI was in the weeks. I think that taking the time and understanding the business, then understanding how you can deliver it and communicating that, then supporting your people to get to there, is that overall, and then it's on the fly, that overall picture.
Yeah.
So servant leader is absolutely part of that, but it's being very clear and being able to articulate and being very tangible on that initial vision and how that will be measured.
And to your point at the beginning of that response, that moving the roadblocks out of the way is a huge key that leaders don't necessarily, unless if you're, what I find sometimes is that small-minded leaders or leaders with big egos, they often need to take the credit for everyone. They need to do, but you're talking about the opposite of that. And tell us what you mean by servant leader.
Okay, so I'll use an example. And it was an employee. It's probably one of the I refer to it as the best interview that I ever conducted, and ultimately I probably didn't conduct it. So I was looking for a business analyst to perform a role which was what I call a configurator. Fundamentally takes all sorts of parts, puts them together, and you end up with a product. So I'd interviewed a candidate, and my process when I interview is the first thing I do is I have a quick phone call. And that phone call is about communication ability, just getting to know them generally before we take the effort of a more formal interview and coming in and so forth. So I had the very quick phone call with this individual. I'm named Lloydrick. And with Lloydrick, I explained to him the business problem that I was looking to solve and what this role was going to be looking to achieve. So coming back to the last comment, I could very clearly articulate what we were looking to achieve and how we would measure that. Mm-hmm. So I explained that to him, and yes, and he understood it. And at the time, he was working in a concrete plant, a batching concrete plant, as a BA. Absolutely, but he knew his stuff. Anyway, so that's fine. We went forward to the next part of the interview, and we get to the formal interview. He's come into the office. He sat down in the IT boardroom, and we're going through it. I went back over, what we're looking to achieve. And he goes, I took that on board. He goes, and I've built this spreadsheet. And he demonstrated he understood what we were trying to achieve. He'd basically gone to proof of concept in his spreadsheet. He'd mapped out the key points. He had the formulas working. He'd identified the problems that needed to be solved. And it changed the whole conversation from not why would I employ Lloydrick? It's why am I not employing Lloydrick? Mm-hmm. And when he shifted that dial, I knew he was the right person for the team. And being the right person for the team meant that we had a greater chance of success. So to bring it down to that level, and then obviously certainly it's for him to get to where we need to go.
So it's that Steve Jobs mentality, isn't it? You hire smart people not to tell them what to do. They tell you what you should be doing.
100%. Yeah.
That's a great philosophy, Bernie.
Yeah, and as an example, and I still say to say he was probably one of the best people I've ever interviewed because he was really the only person that's ever flipped the dial.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And what advice would you give to professionals aiming for leadership roles in ICT?
It's an interesting one. And I've thought about this a number of times, and certainly in what I guess I do in my role and how I work, the most valuable asset that I bring to the table, is obviously experience in courses and what it doesn't really matter, is my network. And a lot of people in IT don't network. I'm not going to say the opposite, but I probably do 1, 2, 3 events a month, if not 1 or 2 a week, depending on the time of the year. I'm a member of a lot of professional associations, and I attend a lot of events where I'm there to meet, greet, talk, and communicate with that. But that networking, whether that be at a vendor level, whether that be at a peer level, whether that even be at a personal level, makes the difference. It's when somebody's got a problem, you can say, well, look, I don't know the answer to that, but I know somebody who's tackled that before. Or I know somebody who'd be interested in how we can tackle that. Or I know somebody who's had that, but it fell over. Let's find out why their instance fell over. And that gives you the ability to start to ask questions. And that is the value that you can't get from a book. You can't get from sitting in your office or sitting at a desk. And a lot of IT people don't do it. whether it's a cultural thing or I'm not sure. But the ones that do go a long way. And I met a very interesting bloke the other day, and I think his title is head of software at Blackmagic. And I was at a lunch, and he explained his career path, and he'd done some incredible things. And he was at a CIO lunch talking to people that had startups that had gone off to be millions of dollars, and that they'd set up multiple different companies. And he was there learning and growing. And it was great to see. And you can see that for his career, he's just on the start of that stepping stone. He's made some incredible points to where he is, but he's going to go a long way. And I said to somebody after the event, I said, if he turned around and said he's starting a startup tomorrow, and he said, if you put 10 grand in, you can have 10%, I'd give him 10 grand. Now, there's very few people that you put your own hard-earned cash down based on one lunch where he sat across from you and told you his life story.
Yeah.
But you could see the steps and the logic behind what he was doing.
That's brilliant. And great advice. Your network is your net worth, isn't it? I sense that people have got addicted to comfort, so they don't necessarily go out there and network, because it is sometimes uncomfortable, but you learn so much from other people. That's what I enjoy.
I think COVID didn't help.
Yeah.
I think there's a whole generation of people that that just didn't get that exposure. The other thing too is, and it's disappointing, and I'll name it, I think quite a few events, as I said, you'll go to an event and there'll be 40 people that have RSVP'd and 15 or 20 show up.
Yeah.
And you feel for those organisers. They've put on afternoon tea, or they've got tea and coffee, or they've got some great presenters that they've told they're going to be presenting in front of a crowd of 40. And to have 20 show up, whatever the number may be, is very disappointing. So I think from a professional aspect, I think if you're RSVP, you should do everything you can do to be at the event. If you can't, fine. It happens. We all accept that, but at least tell the organiser. And I just see a lot of that happening now. In the last probably 6 months of different events, I've seen a lot of people at a no-show. You see a table full of cards at the front, read unnamed cards. And I just find that disappointing. But again, that's people, I think, letting themselves down because they're not taking that opportunity to network.
Yeah, you're so right. And bringing this into land, anything that you'd love to share with anyone listening or watching out there?
I think that from myself, it's incremental learning, and you never stop. And if you're in a room and you don't understand what they're talking about, don't take offense to that. Go and do some research. Go and build your own proof of concept at home. Go and play with the toys. There's plenty of free tools out there. And get a grasp of the technology, or get a grasp of the business problem. Go and sit with the business leaders. A lot of them are more than happy to share. A lot of people like to unload their problems. Well, their problems become your solutions. So I think that there's the ability to listen and the ability to learn, but incrementally in your own time is something that you just need to do. Personally, I'm running a Wazoo SeamSock saw at home at the moment on Linux, and I'm looking to how I can integrate that back into AI. I've got it tied to my Slack. I've got some open virus, some open source antivirus tied into it. Not because I need it, but because I was in a meeting. They were talking about all these different solutions, and I thought, well, I understand the concept, but I've never done it. And now I have a lot better grip about how it works, what it does, and I can ask more intelligent questions. The cost was some hours at home building a bit of a lab.
Yeah.
So I think, keep learning is really the key.
That's fantastic. That's a great place to leave it. So thank you very much for coming on, Bernie.
Andrew.
If you've liked this episode, please like and subscribe. It helps the growth of the channel so we can keep interviewing some of the best minds that there are here. Thank you very much.